and welcome to VST Presents the Sports Telegram. As always, I'm your host, Arshavir Saryan, joined with Kenny Hodges and Kaylie Harden. It's an exciting week. We're diving into week 4 of the NFL season and all the good and craziness that came out of it. And then we're going to make our picks for week 5. But what we like to do here is let Kenny run the show because this is kind of his baby. And as much as I love it, I like it when he drives his boat. So, Kenny, first, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. We're jumping into week 5 action. I mean, I guess it's the quarter pole. I mean, it used to be week 4 used to be the quarter pole, but then they decided to make these guys play an extra game. They play 18 weeks and now they play 17 games. So I don't know. I guess this is the unofficial quarter pole now. But we've been going through this NFL slate, and we think we're starting to learn some things about certain teams. There's a lot of parity in the league, a lot of excitement for week to week. You don't know what's going to go on. A lot of injuries, just a lot of things to dive into. But as usual, we like to start with our Homer segment because we're like everybody else. We got rooting interest. Y'all see the hat I'm wearing? Listen, we got teams that we root for, right? So we'll start with Kaylie. I want to start with Kaylie this week because she's a Browns fan. And like a lot of Browns fans, they woke up Sunday morning and it was the opposite of Christmas morning where you get presents under the tree. What Browns fans found out Sunday morning was that their quarterback was a late scratch and there was going to be someone not named Deshaun Watson starting that game. And the game sort of played out the way you thought it might. So, Kaylie, how you feeling about your Browns as they head into their bye week this week?
So on Saturday, we actually got a notification that said that Deshaun Watson was questionable. And, we've seen a lot of injured quarterbacks already this season. We're only a quarter of the way in. And so when I got that notification, I was kind of hoping that they would sit him just because, he's already given us some great games. It would be a real shame to play him and then lose him for the rest of the season. Going up against a tough opponent like the Ravens, that's like almost like accepting defeat right there, But I've been saying since the beginning of the season that the Ravens were going to be a tough competitor, especially in our division. So I wasn't necessarily shocked or surprised, disappointed, yes, but I still love my Brownies. So going into the bye week, I think it'll give him an opportunity to rest, hopefully get some practice in, and then be ready next week.
Yeah, so that was the question. That was the follow-up I was going to ask you. Did you think that it was smart? And it sounds like you do think that was smart because of course the idea would being you would have loved to have him playing against the Ravens, but with the bye coming up and now having 2 weeks to get healthy, they got a doozy coming out of the bye because they got San Francisco coming out of that bye week. So it's almost better, right, to just have him sit for those 2 weeks, be 100% healthy because you need him healthy when he's running for his life from Nick Bosa in a couple of weeks. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And against the Ravens aren't a bad competitor to lose to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that the Browns have anything to really. Yes, there's things to take away from this, but I mean, with 2 of your best players, Nick Chubb and Deshaun Watson, not on the field, I mean, what can you really do? I don't think anyone was really that hurt or, like I said, like shocked about the outcome of the game. And luckily, since we're in the Pacific time zone, you can watch your team get the snot kicked out of them, and you still have the rest of your day to move on with your life.
Now that is something I can attest to. I can still have pancakes and have tears and still go on with the rest of my day.
Yeah.
But moving on to you, Arshavir. You've got 2 teams, tale of 2 teams, if you will, coming out of this past week. How are you feeling about your Raiders and your Cowboys as we head into week 5 here?
I'm damn near ready to be down to one team. I'll tell you that right now. The less I say about the Raiders, the better. I'm getting more and more convinced that Josh McDaniels was not the guy. More and more convinced that he should not have been given the keys to the Raiders. But it is what it is, and we've sucked for 20 years, so just gotta suck it up some more. That's all I'm gonna say about the Raiders. That's it. You lose to the Chargers the way they lost to the Chargers. I'm done. Cowboys, though, they needed a bounce back against New England, and they came back with a vengeance. It's what they were supposed to do. You're supposed to beat up on them, and they did. But as we will talk about in a little bit, their first real test is coming. So both of my feet are firmly planted on the ground, and I'm expecting heartbreak on Monday night against the Niners, because these Niners they don't have any glaring holes. And when you're playing a team that doesn't have any glaring holes, you need to be damn near perfect to beat it. If Micah Parsons' ankle is not bad, then he should be chasing Brock Purdy around all night. And like we said off the air, he should add to that sacks total so he can catch Michael Strahan and take his name out of the record books, because forget the Giants.
So here's what I'll add before we move into the headlines of the week. Steeler fans are going to say, not so fast, sir. Don't forget about our boy TJ Watt, because he tied the record. So in a lot of people's opinion, that's the actual record holder now, because he had to actually get to that 21.5 as opposed to Brett Favre laying down and giving it to Strahan. And I will also add in a knock joke that was told to me earlier this week, a couple of days ago. It was knock, who's there? Justin Herbert. Wham! The Jerry Tillery, which, by the way, really, really bad idea. If you're going to take a shot on a quarterback, don't do it on his sideline, because that's exactly how that should have played out, where he ended up in a swarm of Chargers trying to rip his face off. That was terrible. That was, and I will also add, one of the things that's most disappointing in Mark Davis making the decision to go with Josh McDaniels is, I was a huge proponent 2 years ago. Robert Saleh got the Jets job. He should have gotten the Jets job. But when you look at what DeMeco Ryans did with the Niners defense, the writing was on the wall that was going to be the next guy. When he got his shot to run a program, he was going to hit the ground running. And if you look at what he's doing with these Texans, who have no business being competitive this quickly, and you watch how that defense is flying around and taking off on people's faces, yes, they seem like they hit the lottery with C.J. Stroud, but that team feels like it's made a complete 180 from what they've been pre him getting that job. And I'm talking about that sort of culture change is what Raider fans had been looking for. A guy who was going to come in and say, oh, Pat Mahomes, no, we're going to beat him up. And Josh McDaniels wants to do the Raider way and dink and dunk and all this. That ain't what Raider fans
want. I gotta step in. Josh McDaniels does not want to do the Raider way.
Yeah.
He's trying to bring Patriots way out here. And I'm like, no, it doesn't fly. This has been tried before. You can't transplant something that worked organically somewhere else and bring it especially if you're not the guy who created it.
Yeah.
You got to do your own thing. And he talked a good game about learning how to coach again and learning from his failures, and then he went out and he hung Derek Carr out to dry.
Yep.
Just hung him out to dry. Didn't build the line, nothing, set him up to fail so he could trade him.
Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, Bill O'Brien.
So many other coaches they could have gone.
But all of these dudes have gone and gotten opportunities because they coached under Belichick and tried to replicate what Belichick did, and it didn't work for any of them. Brian Flores included. None of these guys that was able to work. So, I If they continue on the path they're going, I don't think he'll be long for that job because Raider Nation is not going to sit for that. So, listen, I'll talk about my team, but here's what I'll say about my team. We hung tough. Zach Wilson played as good as we've ever seen him play. We hung in. We almost pulled out a victory against the Kansas City Swifts. We almost did. But what can you say? You give your best effort, but Pat Mahomes is the best quarterback on the planet, and he did to us what he did to Philly in the Super Bowl, which was take a third and forever, and somehow the Red Seas parted because you got to guard all his weapons, and now here he comes running with his bow-legged self down the field and converting a first down, and that's the end of the game, and what can you say? But I think, as we'll tune in later, I think this might be a better week for my Jets, but we'll get into that later. Moving into headlines of the week. Some interesting stories, as always, coming out of the week 4 as we kind of head into week 5, and we're going to get into some of them. Right at the top, a marquee matchup that a lot of people wanted to see. Where we go, Dolphins and the Bills hooked up at Highmark Stadium up in Buffalo. The Bills hung 48 up on the Dolphins in the win. My question coming out of this game, have the Bills established themselves as the class of the AFC? Yes, we saw what happened on opening night where they dropped that game that inexplicably, where we still trying to figure out how they lost the game, in which the Jets should have been heartbroken and dejected. But since then, they have put together 3 solid efforts. They've looked like the team we thought they were going to be coming into the year, which we thought they might be the biggest challenger to the Kansas City dynasty. But there are teams like the Dolphins, who they just beat, the Ravens, the Chiefs, all 3-1 here at the quarter mark in the AFC. Kaylie, we'll start with you. Are the Bills the best team in the AFC?
I think given if you earlier we were talking about analytics, right? And I think if you take analytics into account or just like general hype around a team, I think that the Bills are I think they're an underrated best. I think that most people would say Kansas City in this scenario just because of like the general hype and like how well they've done the past few seasons, especially as far as postseason. But I mean, the Bills have been consistently good and are not flashy about it. They are a humble favorite. So yeah, I think that they are those guys in the AFC.
All right, Arshavir, you're up. What do you think? You think they're the class of the AFC, or are you leaning somewhere else?
No, I'm gonna say what I said last week after when we were talking about the Dolphins. Look, I really like Josh Allen. I really like Diggs. I really like, Dalton Knox. Even though he's being underutilized this season, in my opinion. There's a lot of pieces to like. I like what they're doing. But until you knock them out, the Chiefs are the team to beat in the AFC. Until people can prove otherwise, I'm going to stand on what I said last week. It's Kansas City, and I have to suppress internal feelings as I say this because they beat us up twice a year. But to me, that's the fact. Until somebody can knock them out.
They beat you up twice a year because the Raiders and the Cowboys are both in the AFC, or?
Oh no, they beat the Raiders twice a year.
I know, but I was also saying both your teams.
No. Every time the Raiders play the Chiefs, I'm like, I go for a walk. I don't watch the game. And it's just, the less I talk about the Raiders, the better. So, but yeah, until Pat Mahomes has been in the AFC Championship game, Pat and Andy Reid, this team as constructed has been in the AFC Championship game 4 years in a row. So until you knock them out and they don't get there, that's who they are.
Yeah, it's funny because when I wrote this question out to post to you guys, I sort of kind of was wavering back and forth myself because I look at the Dolphins and that's clearly with all that speed, they might be the best offense, right? When you look at the Ravens, they've got dynamic pieces. Zay Flowers looks like a steal where the Ravens got him in the first round. We know what the Chiefs are. I look at the Bills and I say this might be the most balanced of those teams because of what they can do on both sides of the ball. They can dominate you defensively. Josh Allen can get after you. Stephon Diggs is uncoverable. Nobody still talks about Gabe Davis, and he might be legitimately a top 10 receiver in this league. They can run the ball. They're good up front. But again, you're right. As I can attest to what I watched on Sunday night, that guy is the boogeyman and that looms over the NFL. You might think you have the Chiefs wrapped up and he will just make something happen. And until someone actually, it's like Michael Myers, until we see his head lobbed off and he is dead and gone, you just have to assume that Pat Mahomes is getting back to the Super Bowl because we keep thinking that, okay, Tyreek Hill left. Their offense somehow got better without him last year, which is inexplicable. So they're the boogeyman. So yes, I want to say the Bills because for a couple of reasons. Also because I'm worried that window could close because who knows how long Diggs is going to stay there. Who knows Jordan Poyer and some of these other pieces on the defense. Now they lost Tre'Davious White this last week. That was a big blow, losing their best corner to an Achilles. I'm worried that their window might be closing because they're not going to be able to keep all of these guys forever. But yeah, until further notice, Pat Mahomes is that guy. Someone's got to beat him. Next headline: Cowboys bounce back against the Pats. The Cowboys bounce back against the Pats. Yes, we know the Cowboys are heading in towards this game with the 49ers, as you so eloquently broke down. We don't need to get in that. So I'll change gears on this question. Is it time to have the conversation about Bill Belichick's greatness? And I'm just going to say this. Yes, I am a New York Jets fan for full transparency. That man broke up with me on a handkerchief at a restaurant when he was supposed to take our job, when he was supposed to take the Jets job, and he left us out to dry. So yes, I do harbor some ill feelings towards Bill Belichick, and he's looking terrible these days on the sideline. Whatever's going on in that man's personal life, he needs some help. But anyway, when you look at what the New England Patriots have done post Tom Brady and how progressively it's looked worse and worse, Mac Jones just doesn't look right. The offense doesn't look right. The defense isn't what we're used to seeing. Was it his genius, or was it that he had the greatest quarterback that ever lived? Because I'm starting to feel like maybe we should be giving Tom Brady more credit for that Patriots dynasty, because since he has left, this team has not been good. So I will ask you guys. We'll start with you, Kaylie. Is Bill Belichick overrated?
I have personal feelings about Bill Belichick just because there's a lot of things that man has swept under the rug for the sake of keeping the good players on his team. Not Tom Brady, but I don't necessarily agree with his leadership style. So I'm going to say that, yeah, he's overrated just because he hasn't demonstrated like an ability to really shape a new amazing team or even a like really winning team. I think that it's hard to ever measure up to the legacy that was Tom Brady. And, you might never get a team like that again, especially for as long as that dynasty lasted. But even so, I don't think that he's even compared or come close to what he's done in the past in the last few years, especially since Brady went to the Buccaneers. So, and then since he's retired. So I don't really think that a lot of that Patriots credit belongs to him. I think a lot of it does belong to Tom Brady.
Arshavir, what say you? Is Bill Belichick overrated?
This is for me, as someone who despises them with the power of 1,000 suns. I think there's a little bit of both. Namely, did this man forget how to construct a roster after Tom Brady left? Because when he had Tom Brady, he still had one of the best defenses in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Did he forget how to construct a defense? Okay. He hasn't found his heir apparent, right? It wasn't Garoppolo. Okay. It's not Mac Jones. Okay. All right, you don't have a quarterback. Well, do you have wide receivers? Not really. I can't think of a single threatening weapon on that team. So, yeah, Tom Brady gets a lot because he dragged a nothing Patriots team at the end of his tenure.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is, when did Belichick forget how to construct the team? Because those early Patriots, they were all him in the middle. Not the early. He inherited some of that. But if you want to talk about that middle of the dynasty, the one where they were the boogeyman, where is that guy? So to me, he's not necessarily overrated, but he is not as great as people want to hold him up to be, because his last few years have really been a hit on his legacy. And to me, that's the question, is when did he forget how to construct a winning team? Because he clearly isn't. I will compare what he's doing, to Andy Reid. Because Andy Reid built a winner in Philly when football was different, before it was a passing league. And again, it hurts me to say it because they were beating up on the Cowboys. But he built a winner in Philly. And he went to KC. And what did he do? Right? The shuffling of pieces, he's still doing it. Now, that is a coach that you look at and you can say, there's a legacy there. Now, what happens again if he loses Mahomes? But you have to look at the whole body of work and what he's constructed. And Belichick's fallen short over the last few years.
Listen, bleep that. Y'all being diplomatic. That man is overrated. That man has a sub 500 career record without Tom Brady. He has one playoff appearance without Tom Brady in 2008, and that was because that was Tom Brady's team, and Matt Castle somehow won 10, 11 games and got into the playoffs. That man's overrated. He's always been overrated. He was a cheater. He had people filming practice, they deflating footballs, all that crap. That man's overrated. That's just how it is. That's how it's going to be. All right. Moving right along. Eagles and Niners are the only left unbeaten teams as we enter week 5. The Eagles survived a close one last weekend at home against the Commanders. And the 49ers did what we all thought the Cowboys would do the week before and kind of put a nice number on the Arizona Cardinals. So I've got 2 questions, not to deep dive into the teams too much because, yeah, we get it. They're both good. The Eagles went to the Super Bowl. The Niners were the NFC runners-up, and we know those 2 teams are good. What I want to do is I want to talk about a question that's kind of permeating with both teams that I think are interesting discussion points with the Eagles. The brotherly shove play. There's been a lot talked about the brotherly shove, and, it's overpowering weapon that the Eagles tend to use. and now other teams are trying to implement it and not with the same success. The damn Giants tried to use that brotherly shove play and got 2 of their old linemen hurt last week because that's just a god-awful mess over there in New Jersey. Should it be banned? And the reason why I'm asking if it should be banned is because we do know that years ago, Richard Sherman brought this up on the podcast, that the rules were changed where defensive players were not allowed to dive in and rush the center on plays, on like field goal plays, because they deemed it to be unsafe. Essentially, when you look at what the Eagles are doing with the brotherly shove play, it's basically the same thing, but just with the offense doing it as opposed to the defense. So I would ask, do you guys think that this play should be banned? Do you think it's an unfair advantage they have? We'll start with you, Kaylie. What do you think? You think it should be banned? Do you think it's dangerous?
I think football is dangerous. Football as a sport is dangerous. We know that, we know this. I mean, I think the only alternative, as much as the next person want to see the competitiveness of the game preserved, but at the same time, these players do deserve to be protected. I don't necessarily think that needs to be in the form of rule changes, but maybe the NFL could just dish out a better insurance policy, lifetime insurance policy for their players. Then maybe we wouldn't have to overanalyze how safe or unsafe or legal a play should be. I think if you have the weapons to be able to pull this off, then you should use it. I mean, this is a competitive game. It's a game played over inches. So yeah, I don't think it should be banned. No. I think that there's other powers at play that could make it so this is something that can be utilized by teams when they have the ability to do so.
Arshavir, you're up. What do you think? You think it's a dangerous play, or you think we're overblowing this whole thing?
I think it's a bit overblown. Here's the thing: most professional leagues are copycat leagues, right? You see something that works and you want to try it. Problem is, if you don't have somebody who was there in the construction of it, then you're going to run the risk of doing it wrong. Giants. Now, as a rival, yeah, I don't want them doing that. I want to ban. I don't want them doing it. That's their move. That's their thing. They're not allowed to do it. But in all seriousness, I do it. Like, it works. Do it. It's another trick play they got up their sleeve. Simple as that.
I tend to agree. I think we're overblowing the whole thing. Yes, the Eagles are exceptional at it. They have like a 90-something% success rate, but I think it has more to do with the fact that if you go back and watch Alabama clips from when Jalen Hurts was there at Alabama as a freshman, he was squatting more than his offensive lineman. Like, the man doesn't skip leg day. The reason why that play is successful is because once he starts moving forward, he could pull an 18-wheeler because that's how strong his lower body is. So that has a lot more to do with it, because the fact that we're even having this conversation when I don't think people remember during the Patriots' heyday, during the height of the Tom Brady dynasty, they essentially would do the same damn thing. They get on 4th and 1 situations, and Tom Brady would do the same thing. He just knew how to, fall in between the A gap and just pick up a yard and keep a drive going. So I think it's all overblown. And now we're going to have this conversation because the Giants are inept and somehow tried to do a play and may have lost one of their old linemen for the season. That has more to do with the Giants than anything else. But moving right along, question I wanted to ask about the Niners. Obviously, we know they have a big one with the Cowboys this week, but one of the questions that still sort of lingers over the 49ers is Brock Purdy. We know he was Mr. Irrelevant, the last player taken in the draft, but he has fit in seamlessly since he got that job. He has an outstanding record, but there are a lot of people who still question if he is the guy. All indications seem to be that this guy is the real deal, but from one person to the next, you ask them, and they still aren't bought in or sold. So, Kaylie, we'll start with you again. What do you think of Brock Purdy in San Francisco? Do you think this guy's the real deal, or do you need to see more from him before you're willing to say that this guy is the guy that can take the Niners to the Super Bowl, to the promised land?
I'm a Browns fan, so I'm always going to be skeptical of every quarterback, of everybody leading a team, of anybody who says they're that guy. I'm not buying it until we have some postseason wins. I'm not convinced.
Yep. Okay, Arshavir, what do you think? Where are you leaning with Brock Purdy? I know this is a sensitive subject for you because you're going to have to deal with this young man. But do you think he is more of a byproduct of the weapons around him, and he's just doing a good job getting the ball out of his hands? Or is this kid the real deal? What do you say?
Well, I actually took a deep dive into Brock Purdy. And here's the thing, right? He is number 8 in passing yards in the season. He's ahead of Mahomes and Hurts barely by like 5 or 6 yards or something like that, right? But he's right there with them, ahead of them. He leads the NFL in passer rating, which means something, right? He also is number 3 in completion percentage. But here's the but. He's not asked to throw. He's asked to manage the game. He's asked to run the offense. Now that's important. The quarterback has to be able to manage the game and run the offense. He is that guy on the field. He's number 26 in pass attempts. He's behind Zach Wilson and Joshua Dobbs in pass attempts. So the fact that he is tops in completion percentage, he should be. He's not throwing the ball as much. He's tops in rating. Why? Because look at the weapons he's getting the ball to. When I watched them play, I didn't see the entire game. I watched a little bit of it a couple weeks ago. And I was looking, and here's the thing. I have Kittle on my fantasy team. And there were a couple, I was like, get the ball to Kittle. But they were running all these jet sweeps with Debo and flipping the ball out and doing all these crazy things. And I'm like, that's what it is. It's the system. He's not terrible. He's not. If he was terrible, he wouldn't have a 72% completion rating. Yeah. He wouldn't be number 8 in passing yards if he was terrible. I mean, he also can throw the ball 3 yards to Deebo Samuel, and Deebo's gone, right? Or he can get the ball to Ayuk, and Ayuk can make people miss. Or he throws a little screen pass to CMC, and McCaffrey goes for 75 yards. Yes, these are reasons why. These are the weapons. But there's a reason that he is running that offense. He was the guy who fit the scheme. So I think it's a combination. I just knock him down a few pegs looking at what he's got.
It's fair. It's fair. I will say this. I think we are going to learn a lot about Brock Purdy because this is going to be this week the toughest test that he has had yet as a starter in the National Football League, because he's the first time he's going to go against a defense that can actually take away some of those weapons, and he might have to figure some things out on his own at that position. So that'll be interesting to watch. So now moving along from those unbeatens to some teams that have been train wrecks in the first part of this season. We're looking at the 1-3s. The true train wrecks we're not going to bother to talk about because the poor Bears, Justin Fields, let's just hope they don't ruin him. I have a feeling he'll be playing somewhere else next year. The Panthers, we know what the Panthers are. Bryce Young will be good eventually, but, they're going to struggle, and he's been banged up already. But let's focus on the 1-3 teams. There are some teams in here that we thought would have better starts to the year, namely teams like the Giants and the Jets. Obviously, the Giants were a playoff team last year. They've kind of stunk up the joint. The Jets, we know what happened with Aaron Rodgers, what it was supposed to be. The Bengals have been banged up. The Cards, we thought they would be in that same category with the Bears and the Panthers, but they're 1-3. You know, the Broncos, the Raiders, the Vikings off to a terrible start, the Pats. So my question to each of you is, if I were to give you $1,000 right now and told you go to Vegas, put it on one of these 1-3 teams with their odds at this point as dwindling as their odds have been and diminished, who would you take that $1,000 on to get their season turned around? Kaylie, we'll start with you. Who would you put money on?
The Bengals. I'm going with the Bengals. I mean, aside from the fact that I'm a Joe Burrow fan, but I also just think that like the Jets, I think that they did have a really promising team. I think that Joe Burrow is just more likely to come back this season, and we're going to see their season turn around for them.
All right, Arshavir, same question to you. If I gave you a stack and said go to Vegas and put it on one of these teams to get it turned around, who are you putting your money on? You leaning Bengals as well, or what?
Yeah, actually. I had Bengals, and I thought maybe the Cards, because they had no business hanging around as much as they've hung around. You know, minus the beat up by the Niners, the Cards have been semi-impressive. But it's the Bengals because, as Kaylie said, they actually have a really good team, just a matter of health. And Burrow looked like he was getting healthy, looked like he was coming around, so why not the Bengals?
I tend to agree with you guys. I think that Joe Burrow is a safe bet to put your money on. The only other team I might throw in there, because I might get longer odds and get more money out the back end of the situation, I might go Vikings, only because that team has no business being 1-3. You got Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins and Madison and all these guys. And when you look at some of these teams, they've got 2 games with the Bears. Those are wins. The Packers are up and down because they're going to be still figuring things out with Jordan Love. They should win those games. I think they have winnable games on the schedule that should help them sort of turn it around. But yeah, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and those boys, yeah, 1-3. That's weird. If they can figure out what's going on with his calf, maybe they might need to sit him a couple of weeks, even though Joe would be like over his dead body would he sit. But I think the Bengals are a safe bet. Now,
be honest real quick though. You want the Vikings to fall apart so they can trade Cousins to you guys.
Yeah, give me your quarterback. You don't want him. You don't love him. He can serve purposes elsewhere to help others in need. You guys know y'all want to throw this thing away. Caleb Williams is sitting right there. Drake May is sitting right there. Hell, Shador Sanders might be sitting right there. It's time to move on, huh?
We're going to have to talk about Caleb Williams because apparently he said he's willing to go back to school and make more money on NIL than his rookie deal if he's not going to end up on one of 5 teams. He only has 5 teams he wants to play for. He's already
I can't watch college football without seeing him stuff a Wendy's breakfast sandwich in his mouth. Of course. Why would you leave? This man is in commercials like he's already in the pros. I would, if you're gonna go stick me in Chicago. Listen, I saw what y'all just did to Justin Fields. No, thank you. I will stay right here at USC. Try to be the first guy to win 3 Heismans, because at this point it feels like this Heisman is his to lose this year. Like he might go back to back. I'd stay. If I was advising them, you don't want to go to Chicago. They don't know what the hell they doing up there. If they got FBI investigations, they got all kind of crap going on around that team. Stay in school, young man. Just stay in school. The money's better. Just like the NCAA women will tell you. The money's better here. Let's just stay here. Now, moving on to our weekly picks. To update you guys on our current standings, your boy is in first place with 14 points, 10-6 overall. Kaylie's in second place, 11 points, 10-6 overall. And Arshavir is right there. It's neck and neck. No one's pulling away from anybody. He's also on 11 points, but 9-7 overall. So Kaylie takes second place through tiebreakers. But we are right there. No one's pulling away, and we still got the double and triple down in our back pockets. So, going into our weekly picks, I've had you guys kind of start the last couple of weeks, so I'm gonna throw my picks out there first this time. Now we'll start with my first pick. It was rough this week. We talked off air that we're getting into the part of the season. Parity's kicking in, injuries are kicking in, teams are doing Jekyll and Hyde things on a week-to-week basis. And styles make fights and matchups and everything. And then just in general, I'm just scared. I'm scared to go anywhere near the Houston Texans because that team all of a sudden now is beating everybody. But I'm going to start in Detroit. The Detroit Lions at home over the Carolina Panthers. That pick made a lot of sense to me. I like where the Lions are going. I like what Man Campbell's doing up there. He's got those boys playing hard. Aiden Hutchinson is doing his best TJ Watt impersonation up there, and the Panthers are struggling. We're not even sure if Bryce Young's playing this week. It might be Andy Dalton again, and if it's Andy Dalton, that's an automatic dub to me. So I'm going with the Lions over the Panthers. My second pick, forget everything I just said about the Vikings and them might being able to turn it around. I think they're going to get their butts handed to them this week. I think Patrick Mahomes is finding that mojo in the early part of the year. I'm going Chiefs over Vikings. No, I'm putting my stack in my pocket. I'm sliding it over to the Bengals. This slide for Minnesota continues at least another week. The Chiefs are going to go and handle business and move to 4-1. My third pick, listen, I've stayed away for the first 4 weeks of this season. I've been heartbroken. I've been untrustworthy of what this has been put on the field. But I just got a feeling that this week there's going to be some motivation. I'm taking my Jets over the Denver Broncos. The bucket hat game, bucket hat gate. I think we're going to go to Denver. We're going back to that house of horrors for Breece Hall. They said he's not on the pitch count this week. He's going to be full go. He's going to run all over that defense because that defense couldn't, as Shannon Sharp eloquently put on First Take this week, they couldn't stop a parked car with a Uzi. I think the Jets are going to be able to put a number on them. I liked what I saw from Zach Wilson last week. I think it continues this week. I think he's starting to find his groove. They're tailoring their offense to what he can do. I think we're going to go to Denver, and we're going to put a beat down on them. And for my lock of the week, it was hard to find one this week. It really was. But when I'm looking at locks, I'm looking at ineptitude. Who is the team that looks like they are floundering the most against a team that should absolutely spank them? And this one became obvious to me. I'm going Dolphins over the New York Giants. The Giants have been atrocious this year. Through 4 games, they have put up one decent half of football, and that's the only reason why they aren't 0-4, because somehow miraculously they put together a good half against the Cardinals and saved that game. I think they're going to play the Dolphins, and still no healthy Saquon. Daniel Jones looks lost. I think the Dolphins are going to be pissed off after losing to Buffalo, and they're going to make an example out of the New York Giants. So my lock of the week are the Dolphins over the Giants. So I got Jets, Lions, Chiefs, and my lock of the week are the Miami Dolphins over the Giants. Kaylie, who you got?
So I said this before we started recording too. Like, I think that there's a lot of good picks you could take this week, but they scare me because some of these teams are shaky. You had a lot of matchups that were really even that could have gone either way too, and then you've got some good teams that are on bye week this week. Some good safe picks that we can't even pick this week. So, all that being said, I'm taking Kansas City over the Vikings, of course. That's a no-brainer. I'm also taking Detroit. I'm pretty confident in that one. Dolphins, I think that, last week was rough, but they're still that team for real. Like, they could still put some damage on. And then my lock for this week, no shame to Travis Kelce, but I'm taking the Eagles. So okay. I want the one half of Donna Kelsey's jersey that she doesn't give to Taylor Swift. I'll take the other half.
I like it. I like it. I like it. All right, Arshavir, you up, man? What do you got for this week?
I mean, week in and week out, we all seem to be reading the same book. I went Detroit over Carolina, Cincinnati over Arizona. Even though that's a risky pick.
That is a risky pick.
That is risky.
If I was going to take that pick, I would have taken the Cardinals.
I'm going Cincy over Zona. Buffalo over Jacksonville. I like the role that Buffalo's on, like we were talking about. They really seem to kind of put it together. And then my lock, I'm taking them pissed off Dolphins, beating up on a shorthanded Giants. Because I mean that was a no-brainer.
Yeah, the Giants are on the struggle bus, and like I told you guys, even though I'm an LA transplant, I start my mornings every morning listening to New York sports radio and the Odyssey app because that's just how I get my day going. Listening to New York, listen to us New Yorkers rage about our teams and how we hate everything.
Do you wake up at 4 a.m?
Oh no! See, New York sports radio. This is all day. So by the time I'm up, I get my day because I got to get my kid going at 5:45 to get him.
Basically, you do wake up at 4 a.m. You could have just said yeah.
Basically, yes. I get up at 4 a.m. So I'm listening to New York morning shows, and all anybody's been talking about is that look. If you saw it, it became a meme of Brian Daboll's disgusted look at his quarterback when he threw a pick six because he couldn't believe that his quarterback would make such a terrible decision. I don't see them fixing all of this stuff in a week. I think they're going to get smashed. So those are our picks. Good luck to everybody. So we've got some things in common. We've got some risks. I actually think you have a couple of risks this week, Arshavir. I got to be honest with you. I think that Buffalo one is a little risky too. Only because the Jags played in London last week, so they're already over there. So Buffalo's the team that's traveling across the pond, where the Jags kind of, because they knew they were playing there back-to-back weeks, they never came home to the States. They just stayed and went to go to the Beatles Museum, Buckingham Palace, and went sightseeing. And Trevor Lawrence spent his birthday at eating tea and crumbs, drinking tea and having crumpets and crap. So, I mean, but if the Bills are who we think they are, they'll still go over there and handle business. All right.
Why don't you just let Arshavir hand me second place and calm down?
The smack talk begins, ladies and gentlemen. The smack talk begins. All right.
Okay.
Question of the week. Obviously, if you're familiar with places like Jacksonville, as we just mentioned, they don't sell out quite often. So a lot of times those poor, unfortunate people get blacked out from watching their own teams at home. So if your teams, obviously Kaylie's team is on a bye this week, but let's just assume they were playing, but it was blacked out and she couldn't watch it. There was no way she couldn't go to the Browns back bar and couldn't watch her team. I don't even know if I even want to watch the Jets because the depression is real these days. But if you couldn't watch your teams this week, what game on the slate, if you had to pick, if you could go anywhere, what game would you want to watch this Sunday from this slate? Arshavir, we'll start with you this time. Where would you go? What would you want to watch?
Well, first and foremost, I'm always blacked out because they never play Raiders games.
Yeah, unless they're playing the Chargers or the Rams.
You know, and even before the Chargers and Rams were in LA, I got San Diego games instead of Oakland games. I was pissed. But
those days were fun.
I mean, hey, I'll give it the other thing. I get plenty of Cowboy games on Fox because America's team.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when we're talking about the blackout, I had two. Buffalo Jacksonville was the first one, and I was like, okay. But it's kind of, I mean, for me, it was obvious because one of my picks. So I found another one. Houston, Atlanta. I want to watch CJ Stroud. I want to watch Bijan Robinson. Like, give me these guys, and let's see what they can do. So those are my two.
All right, Kaylie, what you got? Who, if you could watch anything this weekend, if you had to pick one, what would you watch?
Well, my team might be blacked out for 1 week. I'm blacked out every week watching football. Just kidding. But that is my favorite day to hit the bars is Sunday, so I can cheer on my teams and fall into despair with those around me in good spirits. But if I was to watch two games that I can't watch the Browns this week, but two other games that I really want to see are Jacksonville, Buffalo for sure. And then also I'm really interested to see, I know this is going to be a shocker, I'm really interested to see Ravens and the Steelers.
Yeah. You know what? It's funny. I'm completely in agreement with you guys. Jacksonville, Buffalo, because that to me is a litmus test for Jacksonville. Are y'all for real or you not? Like you got
also that Toy Story AR nonsense that they did last week. I don't know why I found that so freaking entertaining. I was like, what is this? Like what in the BS sponsorship activation is this?
I will tell you, it is one of the brilliant things that the NFL has done the last couple of years, if you've been paying attention, of trying to make the game friendly for families and kids, is they have done crazy stuff like this. Like last year, it was Big City Greens, was a cartoon from Disney where they made the characters all look like characters, the teams and the players look like the characters from Big City Greens. They've been doing a playoff game where they do like the augmented reality where if you score a touchdown, the slime comes out of everything on Nickelodeon. But this one took the cake. I was enthralled. I stopped watching the regular broadcast and only was watching the Toy Story version because it was incredible. Seeing Bijan Robinson as a Toy Story character running all over the place was one of the more enjoyable things I've watched in quite some time. So I'm right there with you. But my pick it's got to be Steelers Ravens. One, because when I think Steelers Ravens, it always makes me hype because I always think of Terrell Suggs wearing the T-shirt where he's stepping on a Steeler. There's a Raven bird stepping on a Steeler's neck, or the one where he had like a bird flipping a bird. And also, this is the first time since Mike Tomlin's been in Pittsburgh, we're actually questioning like is his job maybe in jeopardy because they just don't look the same. I'm not blaming Mike T. I love Mike Tomlin. I'm blaming that offensive coordinator. He's terrible. But I think it's more him than Mike Tomlin. But man, if the Pittsburgh Steelers don't come with an effort this week and Lamar Jackson beats them up, oh man, there's going to be some conversation. So I think that's the one because obviously, and the Ravens and Steelers just hate each other. There's bound to be a fist fight. TJ Watt's going to hit Lamar Jackson late or something, and then Mark Andrews is going to come shove him. It's going to be fun. That's where I'm landing this week. But we could do this all night, guys. My partners, we all need to get rest. It's late when we record these things. But I will say thank you guys. If you're watching this, this is, as Arshavir said, this is my baby. This is what I get the most hyped about. We love doing this. We love talking pro sports along with our high school coverage. So leave us a like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share this. Let other people know what we're doing because, the content is coming quick and fast, baby. This is what we do. So thank you guys, as always, for listening. We love the support as we continue to grow, and we're going to continue to bring you content. Guys, got anything you want to say before we sign off?
Yeah, if there's anything you guys want to see us argue about, feel free to drop that in our comments too. Because one thing we love to do, it's debate. And so we might as well do it on camera for you because we do plenty of it off.
Yeah, definitely. We go for hours, and we have to actually catch ourselves. So yeah, if there's anything, drop it in. Let us know. Just give us more reason to banter.
And like I said, leave and make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when these things go up because we plan on talking about everything that's on the horizon. We got baseball playoffs. We got the WNBA finals. My Liberty about to win their first championship. We'll get into that later. We got college football stuff. We got college basketball, women's college basketball on the horizon. There's so much hockey. We got everything coming up, but we're going to talk about all of it and bring it to you. So thank you guys for listening. We love you guys. Peace.